crossed I don't lose Wi-Fi. If I do, Randy Kissell and Fran will take over for me.
It's just dropped. Got it. Yeah.
So, hi, I'm Rachel Porter 06. I work in the advancement office, and my trustee co-pilot is Randy Kissell. He is the husband of Fran, class of 78. And Fran and I do a knitting crochet craft night once a month. So shoot me an email if you're interested, or a message in the chat, and I can tell you where to find us. We're on Facebook at the Stagecoach Fibers Guild, which is born of Sarah and Fran a couple years ago, right? And they connect, they share items with our students when they're on campus.
I don't know.
Awesome. All right, so I'm going to get started because Dorothy and Tom, Dotty and Tom, have a radio interview at 8:30 to join. So we've got to make it happen. And I will have this on our YouTube page. There's a whole playlist. I'll put that in our chat as well. So Dorothy is class of 63. They've written over 100 books together, and their newest just was published on the 6th of this month. And it's our topic today. It's Are You Prepared for the Storm of Lovemaking? Letters of Love and Lust from the White House. I'm so excited about this book. It is awesome. I actually have a couple copies of it, and I will also be doing a little drawing for I Heart Wells Week. I know it's hard to see in these little squares, but I've got a little swag items. So all of our attendees tonight will go into the drawing. Can you hear me okay?
Oh, yes.
Okay. So their daughter Ellen will be doing the actual PowerPoint, and they will speak during it. So she's on here. Let me see here. Sorry. What else? Oh, okay. And we've got a whole the whole spring set are all set up for other sessions. Next month will be BJ Rich from 1973 and Mary Twitchell Goodman. And she is they're going to talk about earth care in Rhode Island, but things that you can do locally as well. They're doing a whole bunch of really cool work in Rhode Island with preservation and protecting environment. So make sure to sign up for that. That will be the second Wednesday of the month. And then we have plans for April and May as well. So keep an eye on the website. It's in our alum newsletter that we send out each month on the in the emails. And you can check our website. You can always give us a call at the alum office as well. Yes, I'm gonna actually thank you very much for that feedback. Rand, can you do me a favor and mute everybody that are folks that are not speaking? Thank you so much. That'll help some of that background noise. Okay, so I'm gonna just dive right in. They have to jump off at about 8:20, and I can stick around for further questions or anything like that, and I'll do this little raffle. If you have to jump off and we draw you, I will send it to you. We know how to get your information. All right, thank you so much for being here, everybody. And I'm gonna just kick us right off to Dorothy and Tom.
Oops, I think you need to just unmute yourself. There you
I
go.
just did. Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. Okay. So Ellen, you will start.
You can hear us now, Ellen?
Okay. Connection, which is of course Frances Folsom, who was the youngest first lady, and she was the only person to get married in the White House with marry a president actually in the White House itself. You can see the pictures. Where were they? Oh, here we go. Here's a picture of her when she was at Wells. A picture of her room. Her looks pretty nice to me. And there's a picture of Grover.
Really?
And then it looks like him.
Give us
Well,
the next.
there
the
was
wedding.
one other, there's no, there's the one in the art room, the one in the art room is there, yeah.
On the right.
Well, anyway, we could go on to the next one, but,
There's
there
the
it is, that's the wedding. Okay, well, Grover, Cleveland actually knew, Frances Folsom from the time she was a baby, because his law partner, and he died when she was young, and he actually acted almost as a guardian. And over time, he got very, very attached to her, and they fell in love. This is a letter when she was still at Wells, I believe. This is December 13th, 1885. And he's writing to her, and he says, "While I love you, Frank, as dearly as I can, it pleases me very much to read what you write about your improvements and all that before you as the wife of the president and the lady of the White House. I guess there never was anyone so young and so unused to such responsibilities who occupied the place before. And my, I'm sorry, and my anxiety is, my darling child, that you should be as well prepared as it is possible. Of course, the more other people admire and praise you, the more proud I should be. But I love you just exactly as you are and just for what you are, and that, darling, you must never doubt." And then he went on later to say, "Attention to the science of hen raising, for I don't know what else we can do when we quit here. We must be very frugal in saving, because I suppose there's no way for an ex-president to earn money." This was obviously a different time from today. "Write me all the time, darling, and tell me just exactly how much you love me, and if you love me better and better or less and less." Another letter, which was written to her while she was in Europe with her mother, before they got married, and it was delivered to her really upon arriving, and he was concerned whether maybe she would want to postpone the wedding. He says, "My darling Frank, I feel tonight that you're almost here. It seems a dreadfully long time since I've written to you. I feel dreadfully to think that the first news you receive as you arrive will be of death among your relatives. I know that you'll be glad to hear that I've made arrangements for us two to go away immediately after the ceremony and be together for a week. But why do I talk of all these things when I have a ceremony, when you know of your grandfather's death? Everything will be as you desire. God bless, my darling G.C." They got married on June 2nd, 1886. And it was of course, it was a big deal because it was the only time that this had happened. And so there were all sorts of cards that celebrated the marriage, as well as this daguerreotype in a newspaper.
Ellen, there's the
Yes,
card.
there's one. Yeah.
This was the commercial that people sold, and they were quite popular.
It was also a sign of the time that reporters were becoming far more nosy than they had been in the past. Because of Cleveland's annoyance, reporters found the Maryland cottage where the newlyweds were honeymooning and watched them day and night with telescopes. They even stopped delivery people taking food to the cottage so the newspapers could report what Grover and Frank were eating. She was a very popular first lady, and people adopted her styles of hair. She was a warm person and a big help to her husband, who was a rather colder sort. Grover lost the next election, but as they were leaving the White House and she was packing away, she told the people in the White House she'd be back in 4 years. And she is the only first lady that was both the 22nd and the 24th first lady, as well as being they had a happy marriage. He died in 1908, and she remarried 4 years later. The announcement was made at Wells College. She always remained a figure interested here she is at Wells as an older person. And years later, excuse me, when she was an old lady in 1947, she was invited to a dinner hosted by President Harry Truman in honor of General Dwight Eisenhower. She sat next to Ike, who asked her where she'd lived in Washington before. He was very startled by her answer, the White House. Now, Tom, why don't you just say something just about the book in general?
Well, the book in general is a collection of letters that people who either were president at the time or were about to be presidents later on, and the letters are sent to their, what do you want me to do? Yeah, I'm going to. The letter. Anyway, fortunately, the Smithsonian, no, it's the Washingtonian magazine reviewed the book and kind of gave us a capsule. There it is, capsule summary of some of the highlights of the people that were in this book. Okay, so I'm just going to read you that because it's short. What's it like to get romantic with the president? Most of us will never have the pleasure, but a new book offers a revealing in Are You Prepared for the Storm of Lovemaking? Letters and Lust from the White House. Authors Dorothy and Tom Hoobler dig up a trove of eyebrow-raising correspondence. Here are some standouts. This one they call the most endearing sad sack, Harry Truman. While serving in France during World War I, Truman penned a letter to future First Lady Elizabeth Bess Wallace that's both romantic and pretty pathetic. Please get ready when I get back, he wrote. I haven't any place to go but home, and I'm busted financially, but I love you as madly as a man can, and I'll find all the other things. The couple tied the knot 4 months later. Here's the next one that the Smithsonian called the smuttiest sweet talker. That's Warren G. Harding. Some of the book's bluntest language comes courtesy of the 29th president, who pumped out lascivious letters to his mistress. She later tried to blackmail him. He introduces a third name into their relationship, Jerry. That was his moniker for Little Warren. And Jerry came and will not go, says he loves you, that you are the only love worthwhile in all this world, he wrote. And I must tell you so, and a score or more of other fond things he suggests, but I spare you. You must not be annoyed. He is so utterly devoted that he only exists to give you all. I fear you would find a fierce enthusiast today. They call it the goofiest cooer, C-O-O-E-R. These are their titles, not ours. That's George H.W. Bush, the elder of the two Bushes who were president. When Bush was running for president in 1988, advisors told him he should make his love for his wife more obvious in public, as his opponent, Michael Dukakis, was doing. Bush then wrote a letter to Barbara Bush. Please look and see how Mike and Kitty are romantic on camera. I am practicing the loving look and the creeping hand. Yours for better TV and more demonstrable affection. Your sweetie pie, Cuckoo. And the last one from the Washingtonian is one of the controversial presidents, James Buchanan. They call him the biggest marital sex skeptic. Buchanan was the only bachelor president, and people have argued ever since, even in his own time, whether he was homosexual or not. The only bachelor presidential first lady. As he wrote to a friend, I should not be astonished to find myself married to some old maid who can nurse me when I am sick, provide good dinners for me when I am well, and not expect from me any very ardent or romantic affection. Anyway, we have more full-length letters And again, some of them are too long to take up our time at this meeting, but they're very interesting, and they show you may not have known before. One I have here is from John Tyler. There's several things that make him interesting. He was the 9th president. John Tyler was met Letitia is her name, Letitia, Letitia Christian at a party in 1809. Her parents owned a large plantation near Richmond, and Tyler was soon a frequent visitor. He wrote her 12, and it's very formal language. This is probably the most formal of any president we have in the book, right?
I would think so.
You express some degree of astonishment, my L, he calls her my L, at an observation I once made to you that I would not have been willingly wealthy at the time that I addressed you first. Suffer me to repeat it. If I had been wealthy, the idea of your being actually, he means money, in accepting my suit would have tortured me. But I exposed to you frankly and unblushingly my situation in life, my hopes and my fears, my prospects and my dependencies, and you nobly responded. To ensure your happiness is now my only object, and whether I float or sink in the stream of fortune, you may be assured of this, that I shall never cease to love you. Forgive me for these remarks, which I have been, suffer me to assure you of my constant esteem and affection, and believe me to be most faithfully John Tyler. Now, one of the interesting things about Tyler is that his first wife died after, I think she bore him 7 children, and he married again and got 8 more children by the second wife, 15 in all, right? The largest number of any presidents. And because even though he was when was he
In
president?
1840s.
In
He'd been born in
1840.
1790.
He had offspring who also married late. And as a result, one of John Tyler's grandchildren is alive today. We weren't able to interview him because he's in a nursing home, but it tells you, it's kind of, the first time we heard that, we could hardly believe it because it's such a long span of time. And here is a man who's a direct descendant, Mr. Tyler, actually ate dinner with Thomas Jefferson. So it covers the whole span of the United States presidents.
Actually, yeah, his father, who was a governor of Virginia as well, was roommates with Jefferson at William and Mary College.
Should I read
Oh,
my,
yes, read
my
it.
favorite letter?
Yeah, this is your favorite.
This is my favorite letter. When I read this, the first time I read this, my General Grant, he wrote it July 23rd, 1885, just after finishing work on his memoir. He was desperate to finish that memoir because he knew that he was told by his friend Mark Twain that it would be a great seller and provide enough money for his wife and children to live on after he was gone. And he expected to be gone very soon because he had throat cancer, as you will hear from this. Matters about which I would like to talk, but about which I cannot. The subject would be painful to you and the children, and by reflex, painful to me also. When I see you and them depressed, I join in the feeling. I have known for a long time that my end was approaching with certainty. How far away I would not venture to guess. I had an idea, however, that I would live until the fall or the early part of winter. I see now, however, that that time is approaching much more rapidly. I'm constantly losing flesh is increasing daily. The tendency to spasms is constant. From 3 or 4 in the afternoon until relieved by morphine, I find it difficult to get breath enough to sustain me. Under these circumstances, the end is not far off. They were living in New York at the time, and he says, we are comparative strangers in New York City. We made it our home late in life. We have rarely, if ever, had serious sickness in the family, and therefore have made no preparations for a place of burial. He's above all other places, except for the fact that West Point, in case West Point should be selected, you would, when the time comes, I hope far in the future, be excluded from the same grounds. Women weren't allowed to be buried in West Point in those days. I therefore leave you free to select what you think the most appropriate place for depositing my earthly remains. Look after our dear children and direct them in the paths of rectitude. It would distress me far more to think that one of them could wish life than it would to know that they were prostrated on a bed of sickness from which they were never to arise alive. They have never given us any cause of alarm on their account. I earnestly pray they never will. With these few injunctions and the knowledge I have of your love and affection, and of the dutiful affection of all our children, I bid you a final farewell until we meet in another, and I trust, better world. P.S. This will be found in my coat after my demise. Within hours of hearing of his death, the mayor of New York City offered to build a suitable tomb for Grant and his wife. Land was found in Riverside Park, as many of you know, and Julia joined her husband there after her death in 1902. So that's he really laid it all out in that letter, it seemed to me.
That was a love story that lasted
Yeah.
for a lifetime.
Oh, I forgot. Did you? Oh, here's the picture. In this picture, as you can see, there's Grant on the left, obviously, who's facing to the side. Almost all of the pictures of her show her facing up to the side, and that was because she was cross-eyed and was sensitive about it. He offered to pay for an operation that would remedy the situation, but she refused, and so Mrs. Grant is almost always seen in profile.
He said she liked, actually, he said he
Oh,
liked
he
her
liked
that
her
you're
better
that
that way,
way.
he said, yeah. Of
So,
course, he may have just said that.
well, that's true. Fair. And they were very affectionate parents too. People complained about the fact their kids didn't have much discipline. Odd for a general in that. And not only that, she had an absolutely obnoxious father who made fun of him all the time, and he put up with it because he loved her.
Her father gave him a slave when they were married because he felt he could make more money as a farmer than as a general, or he wasn't a general yet, than as a professional army man. But Grant promptly gave the man his freedom, bit of money in those days. And so he was definitely the right man for the job.
There's another roommate, though, that Julia, his wife's brother, was his roommate at West Point. So
Yeah.
people meet in the same college way even then. Okay, so I was just taking a couple of shorter stories, letters. One that I thought was fascinating only because it gives a totally different picture of a president is Richard Nixon writing a love letter to Pat when he first met her. He met her at a amateur theatrical club where they both were playing in a play that called The Dark Tower. Right. He wrote to her in 1938. He was then a 25-year-old lawyer. Patricia, somehow on Tuesday there was something electric in the usually almost stifling air in Whittier. And now I know an Irish gypsy who radiates all that is happy and beautiful was there. She left behind her a note addressed to a struggling barrister who looks from a window and dreams. And in that note, he found sunshine and flowers and a great spirit which only great ladies can inspire. He knew then why he felt so many, and though he is a prosaic person, his heart was filled with that grand poetic music which makes us wish for those we love the realization of great dreams, the fulfillment of all they desire. And though he knew he should not bore her with these thoughts, he sent them to her because, you see, they were good thoughts, wished for her that she might be forever happy. Dick. And then somehow, let me see you again in September, maybe. That was, it's somehow a different view of the man. This is a letter that gave us the title for the book. This was Woodrow Wilson, a man who looks where he sort of, people said he looked like a Presbyterian minister, but he wrote very, very, florid love letters. In fact, thousands of pages of letters, went to both of his two wives. This letter was written to his first wife after they've been married for almost 10 years. He was teaching at that time in Baltimore at John. His wife remained in Princeton, New Jersey, with their 3 children. Is Baltimore, 6 February, 1894. My own darling, when you get back, you'll smother me, will you, my sweet little lover? And what will I be doing all the while? Simply submitting to be smothered? Do you think you can stand the innumerable kisses and the passionate embraces you will receive? Are you prepared for the storm of lovemaking with which you will be assailed? Do you not know by experience to what lengths and extravagancies of the intemperate lover, and are you prepared to take the risks? Oh, sweetheart, sweetheart, my precious, precious darling, what a terrible longing it brings into my heart, how it makes all my pulses start, while my heart, it seems to stand still. When I think of having you in my arms again, of being in your arms again, touching your lips, hearing you say you love me, seeing the burning light in your eyes as we are strained close to each other's embraces, if I were to allow myself to think of it much, I simply could not stay here. Your own Woodrow. And I'll end with one from the first president, George Washington, who wrote to Sally Fairfax, a woman.
That's
who,
her in the picture.
Yes, a woman who had lived in a neighboring plantation, and whose husband was a friend of George's, but he had a real feeling for her, and he had sent her some flirtatious. But the Fairfaxes went back to England because they were loyalists during the Revolution, and so he never saw her again. But in the year before he died, in 1798, he wrote to her in England, "My dear madam, 25 years have nearly passed away since I've considered myself as the permanent resident at this place, or have considered myself as the permanent resident at this place, or have been in a situation to indulge myself in a familiar intercourse with my friends by letter or otherwise. During this period, so many important events have occurred, and such changes in men and things have taken place, as the compass of a letter would give you but an inadequate idea. None of which events dedicate from my mind the recollection of those happy moments, the happiest in my life, which I've enjoyed in your company." That sentence was all underlined. "Worn out in a manner by the toils of my past labor, I am again seated under my vine and fig tree, and it is a matter of sore regret when I cast my eyes towards Belvoir, the estate where she once lived, which I often do to reflect the former inhabitants of it, with whom we lived in such harmony and influence there, can only be viewed as the moments of former pleasures." And then finally, to end with Obama, a different time when writing letters was a little different. He had not, Michelle liked the telephone better, so that's the way they communicated. The only handwritten message that we could find from the 44th president to his wife was a letter that he sent her on January 17th, 2017, her 53rd birthday, White House. "You're not only my wife and the mother of my children, you're my best friend. I love your strength, your grace, and your determination, and I love you more each day. Happy birthday." 2 years went by, and Barack Obama had discovered Twitter, now known as X, the first president to do so. On his wife's 55th birthday, he posted online a picture of himself and Michelle when they were young. He tweeted this message: "I knew it way back then, and I'm absolutely convinced of it today. You're one of a kind." At Michelle Obama. Have a little taste of what the book is like. So, any questions or,
Comments?
comments or
Anybody
whatever?
still here?
In the chat, we do have Deb has to jump off and she will catch the replay and said thank you so much. And then we also have one other question and a couple questions. Hold on one second. We've got Mary who said thank you for the fascinating discussion and book. 2 questions. How did the authors get access to the letters and how did they get the book published? And are there any publishers interested in presidents? And then somebody, owner 2, who didn't name themselves on here, says, what events in your years at Wells inspired you? So we have 2 questions in the chat so far.
Well, I'll take the last one, the inspiring one. When I was at Wells, Harry Truman, who was at that time, went around to colleges talking about the presidency, and he spoke at Cornell. And I went there with Louise Karabeckian Glover, who is here tonight. And we got a little mixed up while we were walking around, and we almost bumped into him. We were walking the wrong direction, and it didn't cause an incident or anything, and that was the end of it. But it was a really an amazing and a great kind of experience. And and so of course I was a history major, and that was a plus. Now, what was the other question? I'm a little confused.
The first question.
The first question.
Rachel's maybe hung up there. The question was, how did you get access to the letters, and how did you get the book published?
Okay, courses for them. We living in New York. We have fantastic libraries here, and presidential museums, and I mean, just a lot of books of collections of letters. But certainly that every presidential library has information, and so it was a fun sort of thing to do. There are many books of collections of letters. And so it was a matter of finding ones that were of interest. I think that we enjoyed doing it pretty much. A lot of it was done during the COVID years. Well, getting it published. Well, getting it published is a whole different story. It took us a long time to get it published. It's a matter of sending it to the right person, getting it to the right person. The catch-22, the story is it took him over 60 letters to 60 publishers before finally somebody decided they liked it. So it took us quite a long time. And
you hear that all the time. The woman that wrote the Harry Potter books was turned down. Her first book in the series was turned down by, I think, more than a dozen publishers who were now kicking themselves. I don't know how they did that, but it's difficult if you're not a famous writer already. Stephen King, another what's his name? Who was the man that wrote The Godfather?
So
The Godfather around, and people told him nobody's interested in books on the mafia. So publishers are not omniscient, obviously. They generally would rather judge an author or authors by the success of the books they've published in the past, and as a result, they miss a lot of pretty good books.
Well, I think also, when you send something in, when it's not Bentley, then it's got hard covers and it looks professional. So it's a different thing. Also, people's like, what we always call it, the same but different. You know, people want the same thing, but a little different so you can sell it. And that can be a problem. But and there's a luck factor, you know, you have to just keep trying. And you just have to have, I guess, patience. But this
And
took
belief in
longer
your
than
work.
anything.
Belief in your work. We thought this was a good idea. The more we discovered letters, and the more convinced of it we were that it was a saleable idea. We finally did find an agent who agreed with us. His name is Michael Myers.
Eric Myers.
Eric Myers. And he happened to run across a woman who was new to book publishing. She was previously editor of the Miami Herald and switched over to book publishing, and she just liked it, and she stood behind it when I don't know how much trouble she had with the other people at the publishing house, which is Simon and Schuster. But here it is. So our efforts were rewarded.
You may have covered this in some of your answer to that question, but do you have any advice to, say, an undergraduate today who would like to become a writer?
Well,
Be
I can think
prepared.
there's
Yeah.
many more lucrative fields to get into.
Find a comfortable chair because you'll be in it a long time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not, it's anything like this is a luck factor too. You know, you've got to get it to the right person, and it's difficult. And some people are lucky and break in right away, but you don't get very much money unless you're famous. It's definitely not. It's not also if it's a freelancing profession, which means that it's a little difficult too, because there's no
Just
guarantee.
want to be a writer, or have you always been a writer throughout your career?
I didn't know. I never knew what I wanted to be, so I just somehow got into it. I went into publishing.
Fortunately, I was able to talk her into being a writer, which is what I wanted to be.
Well, I worked in a publishing house, but it was just after many other just weird jobs that came along. But yeah, it was nice, and I always like to read and research. I don't really like to write, but I do like to read a lot, so that was.
Well, and someone is asking, Mary is asking, do you have any letters written between the two of you?
No, because we met in New York, and we also, you know, we just dated. No, you know, we never were apart. So somehow
Or apart?
You know, there just was no need to write letters.
In our book, the younger, what's her name? The younger Mrs. Bush.
Oh, I see. Oh, yes, Laura
Bush, the wife of this Bush Jr., let's say.
W, as they call him.
Yeah, that from the day they met until the wedding day, they were only apart one day. And that was when he flew from Texas, where they lived, to Maine, where it was traditional for the Bush family to gather every summer. He found himself so lonely that he immediately flew back. And so as a result, there are no letters from Mr. and Mrs. Bush because they never had any reason to write the letters.
Well, was there a president where you suspect there were letters, but you were unable to get any? Or
and some people destroyed their letters. A lot of people felt anyway in earlier America that personal letters were just that, personal. Who would want them? That letters that were more official, that was one thing you kept, but you wouldn't bother to keep girlfriend or whatever, because it just wasn't regarded as such. And then some people obviously for privacy reasons destroyed the letters. Mrs. Harding did destroy a lot of letters. She just didn't get everything because there was so much with old Warren that he had because he had that other mistress, Nan Britton, who supposedly they had sex in the Senate office building in the closet. And she wrote a book about it, and the Harding family said, oh, it wasn't true, but the grandchild listen, yes, it was Warren's, but, you know, and even, Harry Truman, his wife destroyed some of his letters and he destroyed some too.
He came upon her, Harry came upon her throwing some of the letters into the fireplace, and he said, Bess, think of history. And she said, I am.
I knew,
Yeah, I
I
think
saw
he-
that coming. Um,
Yeah.
you soon, and we'll let you get off, but any chance you'll be doing a NPR radio interview on this subject?
No, I haven't heard anything about that.
Oh, that would be wonderful.
Yeah,
That'd reach a
that
wide
was one
audience.
question. Ellen, their daughter, put a link in here for tacomaradio.org. That's where they're off to next. And then I also just want to make sure, let's see. Oh, what just happened? Okay. Are your other books related to the presidents? I can say no, but they can elaborate for sure. Julissa, I think you can just Google that
Oh.
website. You'll be able to find it. And let's see here. I just want to make sure we're not missing anybody. Mary.
Well, could I just say one thing?
Yes.
Say one thing.
Go
Well,
ahead.
No, I just wanted to say that we've written books on lots of different subjects because wherever one could get a contract, you wrote the book. And one thing about Wells, I got a good education. So, you know, you can research all sorts of things. And we wrote a lot of books for children, young adults. It was definitely
We won an Edgar, which is the reward given by the Mystery Writers of America, and a coveted award for our book. One of our books that was for YA, they call it, young adults, set a boy set in 18th century Japan, and he worked for a real life figure. Judge Ooka is his name. He's sort of regarded as the Sherlock Holmes of Japan, with the exception that really lived and was known for his ability to solve crimes.
Yes, because the judge actually acted as a detective as well as a judge. So it's a different kind of role in the society.
Right.
So yeah.
How do you pick your subjects?
No, I mean we picked ourselves.
Well,
but sometimes you find out.
We
Say, Jim.
suggested ideas that we wanted to write about.
Yes, but sometimes people came to us with a topic they wanted a book.
I guess.
Yes, we did a
Mhm.
series using first-person accounts because we've always liked to read first-person accounts of things, and we did many different series. It was really, you know, when you do this, you have to take as many jobs as you can take, and that's sort of what the life of a freelancer is.
Writer, yeah.
It is. So anyway.
Dorothy, this is nothing against you, but we've had a request that your husband lean into the picture so we can see what he looks like.
Yeah. But you moved it.
And just while I'm in
It's
here,
hard to see you both, so
while I'm
I'm no great
quiet, we've got a couple comments in here. I just want to make sure we address them. But Mary Kay said, don't forget, you guys go to the website hooblerauthors.com and you can see all of their books there, but there are all the places where this new book is for sale. I don't know if you answered Lisa's, did you write a lot while at Wells? So that's one thing to think about. And then I think that's all the questions that I don't want to miss anything, but pop in, speak up if we missed you, because they're gonna jump off in 5 minutes.
Hi, I'm Jamie Figgenbaum,
I remember you.
and and Linda Turgeson is with me. So
Yes, I see you, Linda.
Greetings from second
Hello.
floor Leach. It's so great to see you, and we really enjoyed what you have to say.
Second floor Leach. Pam and I are second floor Leach.
Yeah. Your roommate, yes.
Wow, I can't believe it. So many years have
Oh.
passed. it seems unreal, you know, how old we are. It's just like, I don't believe the number. But you
No,
look
I don't
great.
either.
And Betsy Minthorne is here too.
Oh.
Hi,
Hi, Betsy.
So, yes, it's so great to see everybody.
I
I don't
just
know what happened to Linda Warner. She was supposed to be here.
Yeah.
I sent her twice the link.
Nobody's here. I
Well,
see
Oh,
nobody.
oh, and Noni, but where's your face? We can't see you.
we'll have it recorded too. I actually
I
realized
can see your name.
I just realized the recording's still on, so I'm gonna turn that off.
And
Just so it's
Rini.
not abrupt. But
Oh, and Reedy, I'm sorry.
sorry.
I just, you
Oh,
know.
yeah.
Oh,